Welcome to The Pulse, where we delve deep into the issues and ideas that are shaping the future of education. I'm your host, Rick Surrency, Superintendent of the Putnam County School District, and each week we'll be talking to teachers, administrators, and other experts in the field about the latest trends, best practices, and most pressing concerns in education. Whether you're a teacher, a parent, or just someone who cares about education, this podcast is for you. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into the pulse. Well, welcome back. My name is Rick Surrency. I'm the superintendent of the Putnam County School District, and I'm very honored today to have two of our building construction instructors that work in two of our high schools. And as you know, we've been talking about some of the career and technical education programs that we have in the district. We've talked to one of our welding instructors. We've talked to one of our agricultural instructors. And then we've also heard from the director of career and technical education and talked a lot about CTE month back in February. But today, very honored to have Eddie and Dave with us today. And I'm going to ask them, first of all, just to introduce themselves. And then we want to find out a little bit about the our building construction technologies program and what goes on there, and then what students might expect once they go through that program. So, Eddie, welcome. Tell us a little bit about you and where you work at and so forth.
I am Eddie Parcher. As Rick said, I work at Interlachen Jr. Senior High School, teach building construction technology. We are in our second year, so we have first-year students and we have second-year students, and it is going well. My background is really, it's a melting pot almost, if you will. Started out in construction early in life. Went through several doors before I found out exactly what it was I needed to do. Started in ironworking, started with pipe fitting, and then I finally landed the plane in electrical. And right now, basically, that's what my expertise is electrical, but I still have a knowledge of other things to be able to teach and to relate to the students and hopefully prepare them for a successful future in the world of construction.
Good to have you, Eddie.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Dave?
David Tessaro. I teach building construction at Crescent City High School. I was an electrician for 23 years. Before that, I did some restaurant maintenance, gas appliances, things like that. Now I'm teaching. I'm happy. We're just starting out. I've only had students for a couple months now, so we're brand new.
So Interlachen Jr. Senior High is in their second year, and you're actually starting off first year, right?
Yes, sir.
So, and actually, just to want to point out that our state legislature actually funded, we received an appropriation to start both programs at each of those high schools. And currently, we are waiting on the possibility of a third appropriation to begin the next program at Pulatka Junior Senior High School, as well as enhancing some of our existing CTE programs. So I'm really excited about that, and it's really, I think it's something that's been needed here for a long time, especially as a lot of construction, I believe, is going on and is about to happen. I think this is very timely, and I think we're going to give our students some opportunities that they probably didn't have. So, Eddie, let me start with you, if you don't mind. Just maybe talk about what do you see as the purpose of the building construction technologies program, you know, in the big picture of students getting a diploma. And again, they could do this and they could still go to college if they wanted to, right?
Oh, absolutely. And
what do you see as the bigger purpose of that program?
Yes, one is I do encourage all the students to go to college. One is they can never take that away from you. I had a young man, we had a basketball league, and he ended up going to Florida State, and I talked to him probably about 4 or 5 years later, and he had gotten his degree, and he was going to go drive a truck. And he was like, it's what I feel like I want to do. And he said, I have my degree, and I can fall back on it. But saying that, meaning this, is that construction technology, one, is a preparation and a means to, one, is to be able to be successful in your community, also be a parent, be a husband, and a provider. And I think with that comes from the old saying is the earn as you learn program. College, we do know this, we have to take out loans, or if we're blessed enough, we can have the money to pay for our colleges. But having construction and going through an apprenticeship program, you go through that. It's 4 to 5 years. You'll go to school 1 day a week. But along with that, they are putting you in a position to earn money at various locations and sites such as Georgia Pacific and Seminole Electric here in our community.
So again, and I do want to point out, and I don't know if you have any female students in your program now, but this is, of course, I guess the mindset is we think of building construction as being mainly a male endeavor, but this is open to male and female, and we want to have a diverse, group as possible.
Well, one thing I will say, and I do have female students, and I've told my, of course, my male students that they're probably going to be better at carpentry than you are because they're more meticulous and they look at things differently. And I have one student, female student. She does a wonderful job with the hands-on stuff, sanding, cutting wood, and she's as exact as she can be. So yes, that is definitely a good field.
Appreciate you sharing that. And again, we want our female students to feel like they can be a part of that. So thank you for pointing that out. So Dave, tell me, what are some of the things that you're currently doing? I know you're just now getting the program off the ground at Crescent City Jr. Senior High, and I actually visited there recently. What are some things you're doing in your class now that maybe a student next year that might want to sign up for it could, maybe have an idea what to expect?
Our latest project was we took fence picket, one single fence picket, and we made birdhouses out of it. The whole class seemed to really enjoy that. Teaches them accuracy cutting, accuracy measuring, putting all the pieces together, reading a plan. It really covers a lot of things. It's not just a simple little project. So a lot of the kids enjoyed that. Some of the other students that I don't have are saying, can we come build a birdhouse? Well, yeah, sign up for next year. You come in, build a birdhouse next year.
That's cool.
So I did notice one thing, y'all did a project for the husband of one of your assistant principals. I was very impressed with that. Could you just talk about that for just a minute?
So Mr. wheelchair bound, and he has a problem eating because his wheelchair won't fit underneath a regular dining room table. So we found a plan for a dining room table, modified it, raised it, so he can drive under it and he can eat at a table with his family.
That was great.
That's awesome.
Great. Eddie, what about your class? And I've seen some photos of some things y'all are building right now.
Yes, sir.
Talk about some of the projects you're doing.
Well, our latest project right now, we have built a 12 by 12 room, which is, it's twofold, if you will, with the class. One, it does cover the area of carpentry, but also what we have done, we have put up what is called 4 load centers. That would be your breaker panel in your home. So what we're doing with that is I'm teaching them, one is, as Dave pointed out, is that you have to have the knowledge to read a tape measure correctly to do what we have done with that room. So that is so critical. They're finding out, if it's off over here a 1/4 inch, when we get over there, it's much larger than just a 1/4 inch. And they're like, oh, okay, I see why this is so important now. So anyway, we are taking and we are pulling what is called home runs. And home runs are what will go into the various rooms and various areas into a residential home. You pull those first, and we're cutting them in. What that means, we're landing our grounds, we're landing our neutrals, and then we're landing our circuits under the breakers. And we're teaching them how to do that. And there is a level of excitement that has come with that, because I have probably 6 students right now that are wanting to pursue the electrical programs and going into the apprenticeships. And also, some may just opt to go work locally with some of the local folks I have connections with in our community. So it's really exciting to see what they're doing and how it's just drawing them in. And I have kids that are, just to go a little step further here, I have a kid, we went to Bartow. I have a student that wants to, one is to help the recruiting process of getting students to come to the class next year. So it's really exciting to see what is going on there. And
I've seen some of those photos of, putting the wiring in a stud wall.
Yes, sir.
And that's exactly what they would see, I assume, in a lot of the construction. And,
yes, sir.
Tell me this, I'm hearing about wiring. Both of y'all talk to me about the safety aspect. Dave, start off, what do you do to ensure safety? And I know that's a huge part of building construction.
First, everybody has to take a written quiz on every tool they touch. And then obviously we demonstrate how to use the tools safely, and we go over a lot of safety. I mean, the kids get tired of taking so many safety tests.
Yeah.
The first 4 weeks or so are just learning safety, learning the terminology, and recently did a OSHA 10 safety class at Interlachen, and that helped out a lot. A lot of the kids can now recognize unsafe situations.
You know, I talked to Levi Bennett, who does at welding at Interlachen Jr Senior High School, and he said the same thing. You got to spend time on the safety aspect. Otherwise, you know, some bad things can happen. So.
Right.
Anything else on safety that pretty much they pretty much before they can touch a tool, they've got to be able to answer questions about the safety aspect.
Yes, when we go to do a project around campus, I have a designated safety guy. They like that job because they can yell at the other kids, "Get your glasses on, get your gloves on," you know. It gives them a little responsibility.
And again, that's what they would see in a workplace,
in a real,
right? Eddie, what about you? What do you do to ensure that safety, especially on the electrical part? I can imagine that's pretty risky.
Well, the number one thing we do is we don't energize the panel. I told them that'll come later. We are going to remove 3 of the load centers, and then we're going to wire the 12 by 12 room. And then I have some 240 volt that I'm going to bring in, and I will be over that. But I'm going to show them how to, one is to check the voltage properly. Because one of the things is with electricity, you know, you want to make sure what is coming in is 240 volts. You don't want to have it higher or lower. There's a plus or minus 10% that you can work with electricity. And if it falls below that, then too little voltage can be just as hard on the machine as too much voltage. So anyway, we teach that, and going back with, you know, with Dave, is that, you know, in the beginning of our school year, safety is the first word I mentioned, and every project I ever went to when I was working in construction, they always said this, that our goal is to have everybody go home to their families.
That's a good way to put it.
I have a friend that worked on the Skyway Bridge down in St. Pete. Their first conversation, which I didn't really agree with, they said 15 of you will not be here when this job is completed.
Wow.
And he wasn't talking about them retiring, getting laid off, or getting fired. He was talking about them falling off the bridge, and they ended up losing 11 people. Wow. So for me is that safety is real. Students have a hard time embracing this because they're like, yeah. And I tell them, I said, safety glasses, I know, they fog up, you get hot, you work. I said, but you have one set of eyes. You lose them, they're done. I said, they won't grow back, they don't heal. So, I mean, that is something that I'm trying to really embed that into their minds, is that when you're older, if you work carelessly now, you will develop habits that you will take out into the field later. And when you have a wife and you have children that are, they are depending on that income to be brought into the door for their survival, you need to really think about that every day. And OSHA, going back to that, taught them some things that go, we don't have to say yes to everything that's going on that I'm asked to do, which is workers' rights.
That's a good point. And, you know, I also failed to mention, you know, we the funding for this we received from the state of Florida. But before we did that, before we applied for that, I just want to give a shout out and a word of appreciation to the Oliver Foundation, who initially put some seed money towards both programs and really helped us receive that funding from the state. So,
yes, sir.
And again, that's just an example of community involvement. But let's talk about the bigger picture. Okay. And I appreciate y'all sharing about safety and what goes on in the class. Let's talk about, again, for those students who may want to consider going into this program next year, what's, I know we talk about being job ready. Talk to me about when they leave your program, let's say they graduate and they have a certification in building construction technologies. What does that really mean? Eddie, can you kind of elaborate on that some? When they leave your program, what would that entitle them to do?
Well, one is they have passed a written exam over what we have been teaching. So there is that push. The written exam is important to be able to regurgitate, if you will, what it is that you have been teaching all along. But as Dave was talking about, is that each tool you are taught to work with safely. You walk out on a job site right now, this is what we hope to accomplish with OSHA 10. They walk out, they hand a man an OSHA 10 card. That is a bigger chip in the game than probably anything you can bring. But when you walk out there, a lot of times you go on a construction site, they're going to say, okay, show me how to cut this board, or show me how to weld this, or show me how to grind this. Read this. What's the measurement here? So when they walk out there, they are game ready, if you will. They don't have to go, okay, let me put them with somebody so they can learn everything. There is simpler jobs that they can begin with, if you will, low level, that they can begin with and accomplish on their own. And that's the certification. What that does is says, hey, you know what? They've come, they've learned, and they've passed all the certifications and performance evaluations that we've had for them, and now they're ready to go to work.
You mentioned a minute ago before you came on the air that sometimes, especially in apprentice jobs, that this might actually give them an advantage as far as their time in an apprentice. Can you talk about that for a minute?
Yes, sir. Of course, the apprenticeship program, like I said, is 4 to 5 years. But one of the things the certification can do is that they can walk into an apprenticeship and they look at it, and they may have them, what is it called when a student skips a grade? Is it CLEP a test or whatever? Right. They may have them do some kind of a basic knowledge of, hey, show me you know what you think, you know what to do as a first-year apprentice. And if they can demonstrate that, then that apprenticeship goes from, out of their time, they go from a 4-year apprentice to 3-year, but they're actually getting 4 years, if that makes sense. So that way it shortens up the time, but also there's a pay grade increase. You go from the first-year apprentice to the second-year apprentice, you're making more money.
Well, speaking of pay, I'm glad you said that, because I think that rings in people's ears. And having been in the industry yourself, what kind of pay would a person coming out of high school, and again, I'm sure it depends on what they're doing, but what kind of just general idea of pay could people expect?
It's usually, you would start out a couple dollars more than minimum wage, whatever the minimum wage is set at. So if it's 15, you're looking at about 17 an hour, and then there's a probationary period. And after a month or so, after they see your knowledge base, see what you can do, how you perform, how much you can produce for them, you'll get a raise.
Very good.
Pretty quickly.
So as we kind of wind up today, just let me ask both of you, what are some things that we haven't talked about that you want to make sure those watching today, you want to make sure they hear, and some things you want to make sure they understand about the Building Construction Technologies program? So, Eddie, can you lead off? What are some things that you want to make sure to convey to our audience?
One is that there is, going back to the job market in construction, when we do this, that's what, if you will, the end is, that we are looking to get kids put in this community of the job market. So right now, as we talked about, there's a lot of construction going on. Well, the average age of construction, I want to say right now, is about 45 to 50 as far as the people working. There's going to be a huge retirement coming up. So there's going to be a lot of positions that are going to need to be filled. So I think that is that when you look at the income and what people can make, there is some traveling that you're going to have to do. But my nephew, I talked to him a month ago. He is an electrician. He's in Louisville right now, and I don't think he'd mind me saying how much he was making a week. But he makes, as a 4-year journeyman, he's been a journeyman for 2 years. He makes $3,500 a week.
Holy cow.
Up in Louisville, but he's traveling. But the idea is, the goal is one, for me as a teacher, is to find their niche. Help them find that. As I said in the beginning, I took time to, one is I did a bunch of stuff and I was like, yeah, that's not for me. But then electrical was like, okay, I like this. Help them find their niche, direct them in the area that they need to go into, sharpen their skills. The ones that are looking at going into the apprenticeship program, out of my class who are seniors right now, I'm spending some extra time with them. They'll come back, they'll get a pass from a teacher if they've got all their work cut up, and they'll come back and then we'll spend a little bit more time. One is stripping the wire. How do you bend the wire? How do you place it? And working everything, going back to safety, I teach them this, is even though it's not energized, we're working everything as if it's hot. If you do that, then you're going to have very little problems. But having that, and also locally, I still have some ties in our community to be able to help some of the students that if they desire to say, what, I really don't want to go through the apprenticeship, I'm just ready to go to work. I'm producing students, young ladies, young men, ready for the world of construction. And I think that is something in itself that's just, they're being able to walk out. Too many students right now, I think, are going out and not having a direction, and that's impacting, the rest of their lives in such ways that it may not be to their advantage. So,
well, I think you said it right, that you want to give them tools, or figuratively speaking, give them something where they can go to work if they want to, but they can also have a choice.
Yes, sir.
And again, you said finding their niche.
Yes, sir.
There's a lot of possibilities within the construction industry.
A lot, yes, sir.
Said well, and one thing I want to mention about Crescent City is we're going to have some construction going on there. Now, your current students may not be involved immediately, but we're building a new Crescent City Junior High School and a new Crescent City Elementary School here in the next couple of years. So, very very exciting stuff. But anything you want to add that we haven't talked about that would resonate?
It's like what Eddie was saying. Our program is very broad. So we will have some students that will go into the project management part. They'll leave us. They'll go to college. We have other students that will go into apprenticeship programs. Then we have other students that will just go straight into entry-level work. Mm-hmm. We cover all. We give them the foundation to where they can go into where they fit.
Well said. And again, having that foundation, they can choose to do other things if they want to. So I just want to thank both of you for taking time to be here today. And I think the people watching this maybe learn a little bit more about building construction. And I especially hope our students that are coming up into high school can see this as an option, a possibility. And if not, then we have some other things. So,
yes, sir.
Eddie and Dave, thank you both for being here. And I think I can't wait to go and visit your classes again and see some of the things you have going on. So, and we'll be seeing you again on our next podcast.